Hey everyone, Spider-Man 1991 here with another graphic novel review where today I'm going to be talking about Ultimate Comics Spider-Man Volume 5 from the Miles Morales series. It has been 1 year since the events of the last story arc. If you don't know, at the end of the last story arc, Miles lost his mother during the battle with the Venom symbiote, and he destroyed his costume, vowing never to be Spider-Man again. And it's a year later. Miles now has a new girlfriend who is the Ultimate Universe's version of Kate Bishop. And even though he pretty much tells everyone he's not going to be Spider-Man anymore, he still gets some pressure. He still feels some pressure from his friends and allies, his best friend Gank. Jessica Drew sends him a new Spider-Man costume and web shooters with notes saying, "How many people could you have saved in a year? Sometimes you need to get back on the horse." And Gwen Stacy also, when she sees Miles again, she asks him, is he going to do any... When she sees Miles again, a bunch of superpowered teenagers attack near the restaurant where they're at, and Gwen asks Miles if he's going to do anything, and he says no, and that makes Gwen very frustrated, and she goes and talks to Aunt May about it. I have some commentary about that scene later. And also, and so basically Miles is pretty much still resistant to being Spider-Man again. He doesn't really want to lose anyone else, like he lost his mom. His dad, though, is apparently walking with a limp now as a result of the Venom incident. And ultimately, ultimately it takes a talk from Jessica Drew to get Miles back in action. She visits Miles and tells him and finally reveals to him that she's Peter Parker's clone, and she tells him the story about how she eventually moved on from that, saying that even though she's a clone of Peter Parker, she isn't Peter, she's not Spider-Man, she's her own person. And and it also explains to him that the situation with the superpowered teens that were attacking the other night, by the way, those guys were the Ultimate Universe's version of Cloak and Dagger, and also the new Bombshell. And Spider-Woman explains to Miles that Roxxon has been experimenting on teenagers, trying to recreate the accidents that led to Captain America and the Hulk, trying to make their own super soldiers to sell to people. And unless there's people like us to stop them, then they're just gonna keep doing it. So Miles decides to become Spider-Man once more and help Spider-Woman out. Alright, so eventually they find the new kids, Bombshell, Cloak and Dagger, and they convince them to team up with them, and they have to take on the new Taskmaster who's hired to take out Bombshell. And apparently the ultimate version of Taskmaster has the ability to absorb energy-based superpowers. But ultimately they defeat the new Taskmaster, then they get to Roxxon, and they're able to get the owner arrested. And afterwards, and after this whole event is done, Miles goes to see Gank, and he tells him that he's fully accepted being Spider-Man now. And I really like the way that they wrote it right when he tells Gank that he's Spider-Man, and that was a very good scene. Okay. Ultimately, though, I thought the story was pretty good. First of all, the team up with Cloak and Dagger and Bombshell, I think it's a great prelude I think this is something that people who are enjoying the all-new Ultimate series, which features the characters in this story plus Kitty Pryde, should definitely check out, because this is kind of a prequel to that. Also, I really enjoyed Miles' character arc in this story. First of all, unlike Peter, though, whenever Peter Parker suffered a loss, he would be sad about it, he would focus on it, but ultimately, though, he would pretty much get back on the horse and become Spider-Man again, ready for action, like a few issues or so. Miles, however, though, took a year to get back in action, and I understand that, because one of the things that does separate Miles from Peter is that Miles is significantly younger when he got his powers. Peter was always in high school. Both the Ultimate version and the mainstream version, they started off in high school, so they were a bit more mature. Miles, he was just starting middle school. So he was like 13 years old. He loses his mom, and then now he's like 14. So I think he's matured a lot in that time, and that's kind of what leads him to being Spider-Man. But in the end, though, he still chooses to be Spider-Man again. And I really liked how he kind of changed his perspective at the end of it. I mean, originally he became the new Spider-Man just because to replace Peter Parker. Now I think he's kind of starting to realize that he's Spider-Man in his own right. So So that's really cool. Also, that conversation I mentioned with Gwen and Aunt May, I thought that was a great scene too, especially when Gwen's talking to May, saying about how Miles retired and stuff, but May kind of reminds Gwen that, you know, Miles isn't really Peter, and ultimately it's his life and it's his decision to decide, you know, who he wants to be and what he wants to do. You know, I thought that was a good scene. So overall, I thought great character development for Miles Morales. Very cool idea for a story, having them go after Roxxon. So overall, I think if you are curious about Miles Morales, then this is definitely a story you need to get. Although, probably shouldn't read this before reading Volume 4. Just throwing that out there. So overall, Miles Morales is a great character. I highly recommend checking out his Ultimate Comics Spider-Man series. Okay, so that's it for me. Thank you again for watching. I'm Spider-Man 1991 saying see you later.